For the Sierra Nevada specifically, I kind of started with their Celebration Ale clone, because I love the Celebration Ale. It comes out every October and around Christmas, and it's like a maltier version of their pale ale, basically a little bit more hoppy, and they use fresh hops that come right off the vine and before they dry them and stuff, right? And so I did that one first, and so but I use some of the information that I got on their website, so you can kind of see like their recipe. They mostly it's like 92% two row, right? And then it's like 8% or less of like crystal, and that's it. It's very simple. And so I was like, well, if I up the crystal a little bit, add a little bit of, care pills for some head retention, maybe we can get it dark enough for like the celebration ale. And so I kind of did that, and I added a little bit of um I can't even remember. I have to look back at the recipe, but I've added a little bit to kind of try and get in the same kind of color category,
Mm, mhm.
and then and then I looked on their website and I say, okay, well, Sierra Nevada's pale ale uses all Cascade hops. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, well, they definitely use Cascade hops, probably a majority of them in here. This is like a maltier version, but I started, even doing a couple of Google searches, you'll find some articles from Sierra Nevada talking about this celebration ale because it's such a cool thing they come out with in the wintertime. And they're like, yeah, we use a variety of Chinook hops and Cascade hops and Centennial hops. And I'm like, well, there you go. You know which ones they got here now, right? So now it's kind of a matter of just kind of playing around by plugging them into like a recipe builder and getting to a similar IBU
Right,
and that kind
yeah.
of thing, right? And so I was trying to use like a mix of all of those different hops throughout the boil and try to get to the IBU. And then of course, I'm not a professional brewer, and they have fresher hops than we get as home brewers.
Mhm.
By the time we get those pellets, they're like a couple years old or whatever, right? And so I knew I was going to end up having a little less aroma and stuff. And the first year I did that, I filmed it. I put it on there and I got it really close. And I knew I wasn't there, but I did tell about like what the differences I was tasting. I was like, this one's a little bit overly malty. It doesn't quite have as much of an aroma, that kind of stuff. And then so the next year I redid it. And so I put that one on there also. Both of these videos are on my channel,
Mhm.
and I did it. And the next one I nailed it. I mean, that beer was the same beer. I mean, it was great. And then it's funny that I'm bragging and patting myself on the back, but on one of the one of the magazines that came out for Zymergy, they actually printed the recipe for Celebration Ale
Okay, yeah.
in their thing, and it was almost exactly what I changed in my
There you
recipe.
go.
And
Yeah.
so I used that to kind of create the clone I made of
Mhm.
the Sierra Nevada's pale ale, because one of the things that just a regular pale ale that I think a lot of people want to make, and one of the things that I did the second version, I changed the yeast up a little bit to have more of a citrusy flavored yeast. A lot of people will use a clean ale like a US-05 or an 001, but I really strongly encourage people to venture past those. And although they're good, they have their place for certain beers. A lot of the reason you like a beer the way you like it, and the reason it gives you some of the hot flavors and other things that you might
Mhm.
get from a craft beer, is because of the yeast, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so Kolsch's, for instance, a lot of the flavor you're getting from that, because there's not a lot to the beer
Mhm,
itself,
mhm.
is the yeast itself, right? And so a lot of that has to do with that. And so so I use specifically Omega's West Coast Ale 1. That's
Mhm.
the yeast I use for Sierra Nevada. It's got this like kind of citrusy aftertaste, and it's still a clean ale, very clean,
Right.
very dry yeast. Right. One of the things that they have on their recipe building is like you're mashing at like 152 or 54 or something.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, 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 no. This beer is way drier than that. You want to mash way lower. If you get under the 150 for mash temperatures, you're drier, you're cleaner, you're crisper. It'll let those hops kind of shine through. So I actually mash in at like 148, like really
Mhm.
low. And that helped get it that same kind of crispness the first time. Crispness, not Christmas, crispness, and let those kind of bitterness and those hops kind of shine through. And I didn't change the grain recipe from my one first year of doing this Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale to the
Mhm.
second year. I just changed the mash temperature. That's it. And it
Okay.
was wildly different, way less malty, that kind of thing. So I try to play around with it, but yeah, sometimes
Mhm.
it takes me two or three versions of a beer to get it. And sometimes it's just a lot of research up front to see if I know if I'm going to brew that beer, I want to see if I can get it as close to as possible